Hello and welcome to Courtside with the Ashland University men's basketball team, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Miles Irvin, and today I'm joined by head coach of the Eagles, John Ellenwood. Coach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
To start things off, the 2025-26 season came to an end last weekend with a regional quarterfinal loss to Grand Valley State, 59-45. What do you think was the biggest difference in that game?
I think their athleticism. I mean, they do a great job of shocking you at the start of the game. It's tough to simulate their guard play and how hard they play defensively. And I think we played them earlier in the year when everybody was really young, and I thought maybe we could do a better job of that in the first half playing against them, being that we played against some really good pressure teams, but. They have some elite guards on the defensive end, so that really affected our first half play. We never really got into a rhythm. Once we got to halftime, we made the adjustments and did a pretty good job the second half. We won the second half, but it was overcoming too much.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Lakers' defense terrific all game long, had a great game plan coming in. You mentioned the guards. What else makes them such a good defensive team?
Well, I mean, they got long, big guys that really can affect things, and they do a good job of being physical in every aspect. So it's a tough team to score against. They're one of the best in the country, and honestly, they should have been the number one seed going into that regional tournament, just because their women's team was hosting, and the NCAA didn't want to have a men's and a women's at the same site, so they got the 2 seed, but they definitely have earned a number one seed this year, and a lot of it had to do with their defense.
Well, for you guys offensively, from the three-point line, just 2 for 23. That's an area we've discussed a lot of the season. What did you think of the shot quality in that game? Was it just shots just not falling?
Well, I think the first half we took rush shots. I think the second half we took good shots. There's some confidence stuff there. Not having like Max Dawson was an elite three-point shooter for us. You just don't replace that stuff. So when he was hurt, you could see the last few games I think we were 1-4, and a lot of that had to do with our three-point percentage. But when you lose a guy like Max, who was, during his end of the year stretch, he was averaging about 15 points a game and shooting a really high clip from three. That affects you. So we needed some guys to step up and hit that game, and unfortunately that didn't happen. But a lot of that had to do with their pressure and rushing us on shots.
Well, Coach, overall, with how competitive you guys were in the GMAC tournament, advancing to regionals, how do you assess the team's play in the postseason?
I think it was good. It was good for a lot of young guys. I don't think there was we had Maceo Williams and Cooper Davis, but everybody else that played for us, even Jason Moore, didn't play a ton his freshman year, but he was a sophomore for us. But everybody else on our team is basically new. So we had a lot of young players get a lot of experience in the postseason, get a taste of that stuff, and that pays dividends down the road. I was happy for that to happen and those guys to compete. I thought we had 2 really good league tournament games. One we played outstanding at home, and then the second one I thought we played good enough to win. I told our guys that in the locker room against Lake Erie. That's a 1-point game. A lot of things could have gone differently in that game. For us to win, but the Grand Valley game is they're a senior loaded team, and they I don't even know if they played a freshman that game. So that for us to compete on that stage with all the young guys that we had, I was really proud of our guys.
Absolutely, and in the regular season, you guys had a strong year, 20-11 overall, 13-7 in the GMAC. How would you describe the year as a whole? As your team went the furthest it has in 3 years?
Oh, that's good. I think we had. Some bumps in the road with injuries, at different parts of the year. The Aiden Gregory injury, Aiden would have made it a very special year for us. You talk about at the start of the year, we scrimmaged Gannon and beat them, and then we played IUP and beat them, and Aiden played in both those games. And, those 2 teams were in the regional final in their respective regions. So, that's what Aiden Gregory can do for you. But we didn't have Aiden for the rest of the year, and that really affected us. And so we had to fill that gap, and Jason Moore did an outstanding job filling that. And then we had to bring along a Trent Minor to fill a backup 4 position for us. So, getting through that injury was a big part of this year. And then obviously Max Dawson emerged the second half of the year, and losing him, I don't know if we ever really overcame that, but we battled pretty hard. I thought, Bo Siegfried really developed this year from the start to the finish. Jason Henlon as a freshman, was maybe our best all-around defender, but definitely our best perimeter defender. And he got a lot of good experience this year for us as well. So, there's a lot of young guys that, got some great minutes for us to win 20 games and get to the NCAA tournament. That's really hard to do, and especially with the team as young as ours it was.
Absolutely. Well, now as we head into the off season, any lasting words for Eagles fans with the season coming to a close?
Well, it was a fun year. I want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting us, and just continue to come out and see. We're going to have a lot of new faces next year. We got some really good freshmen coming in. We're going to be young, but I like our team next year. I think there's a good chemistry already with the guys returning. And the guys coming in are very talented guys, so it should be a good future for us.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining me all season long. I appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been a great ride this year, and thank you everybody here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching Courtside. Once again, I'm Miles Irvin right here on AUTV.